Hello my friends, this is a look in the dark, chapter 18, part 1, and the chapter is called 2 p.m. Sue was sitting in the car of an R.S.P.B, that's the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, investigating officer, who was twice her age, and a little prickly. His problem at first seemed to be that he thought that the entire investigation should have been left to the R.S.P.B and the police, and that the very first hint of something illegal taking place was all they needed to quickly clamp down on criminals and the customers of criminals. Slightly shy Sue was not going to take that lying down. Now listen, Mr. Billings, I've worked away into the small hours of many mornings to compile this information for you. I had to translate it from the coded originals, and here it is all for you. My three partners have risked their lives meeting up with dangerous gangsters, paramilitaries and others. Hours of observation and work from 4 highly dedicated people should not be just brushed aside before you even had a chance to examine it. Sue's cheeks were bright red, and the investigating officer, Geoffrey Billings, realised that he was not being fair to this pretty blonde-haired female who telephoned him to arrange this meeting, and he devised his pub car park by the Kennet and Avon Canal. She continued her strong line. If you only want to tell me you could have done better, I don't have to leave it with you. I could go to R.S.P.B headquarters with it instead. She held the file very close to her chest and was a bit taken aback by her own way of handling the situation, her assertiveness. But Geoffrey Billings smiled. No, dear, don't do that. I'm sorry, I think my professional pride is hurt a wee bit. I promise you, if you have material there to damage the international wildlife trade using your own words, well, rest assured we'll be commending your efforts. Let's start again. You haven't given me your name. Sue liked him a little better now. You don't get my name. I'm not important. I'm a member of the Ace Alliance. I met you here 15 minutes ago, and my 3 fellow members of the Ace Alliance are meeting at the same time with the police, the customs, and David Brentland MP. In these files is everything you need: names, places, suppliers, customers, included are birds, eggs, animals, and even rare orchids. This is a truly international organisation, and it's even set up a charity recently to aid it in its illegal operations. One man is at the top of all this, and be warned, he's as ruthless as can be, with reason to believe that he's killed before and that he would kill again. John Billings took the large file of information from Sue, and he wanted to be able to say, we knew about all this. However, when he opened the file and on the first page scanned the index of information that Sue had drawn up, he realised that this was something much bigger than anything he'd ever had to deal with, and that it would probably have to go to a senior investigations officer. Are you sure of your facts, young lady? You're convinced that this is all based on what has actually taken place? Sue looked at him with an offended expression on her face. Do you think this is a joke or something, Mr. Billings? No, my dear, it just seems to be so extensive that it takes my breath away. Tell me now, when all this has been considered carefully, how do we get in touch with you if we have any questions? You don't. Sue smiled at the expression on the officer's face. You won't have too many questions that the records do not give answers to, and if there are things to be answered, then you'll get the answers when these crooks are caught. You won't be able to contact me. The Ace Alliance wishes to remain 100% anonymous. That's why I met you here, and that's why you must leave before I do. Please don't even try to find out who we are. It's for our own safety and because we're hoping to be able to act again. Billings was reading some of the records from Stanner's files, but decoded. This is amazing, and shocking, stunning and chilling. Well done. But how do we thank you and your friends? By acting speedily in the UK and encouraging others to do the same around the world. Whoever you pass all this on to must remember lives were risked to get it. The only thanks we require is that proper action is taken against these criminals. On the back page of the file you'll find the telephone numbers of the policeman, customs man and David Brentland MP. That is those who have been given an exact copy of all that you have here. Well, what can I say? I promise you this will be taken very seriously, and please accept my thanks and pass it on to the other members of the Ace Alliance. It was the Ace Alliance, wasn't it? That's right. Now I'm getting out of the car and I would ask you to leave. Thanks for allowing me to dictate the meeting place. Oh, and I should mention that we're going to take all the information we have to a well-known media person in 2 weeks, so you and these other folks have 2 weeks to get it all moving. Goodbye now. Sue had handled it well, but then he forgot that last point. As the R.S.P.B. investigations officer drove out of the pub car park and drove toward Devise's town centre, Sue realised that she should hold back for a while until she was sure he was gone. As she sat on a low wall looking down on the canal, a moorhen moved out of the reeds on the far bank. She almost felt the swimming bird gave her a knowing look, but her mind soon moved on to wondering how her comrades had fared in meetings at the other appointments. 35 miles away, Carol was just pointing out the 3 other contacts the Ace Alliance was making simultaneously as she talked with customs man James Catwall, a patient, pleasant man who had very quickly summed the Irish girl up as a genuine one. Long years in dealing with people had given him a lot of ability to see lies, crooks, time wasters, and contrastingly, the genuine people. Well, madam, I have to say you've been very thorough in your gathering of information. I will ask you no further questions if you wish. I want to respect the Ace Alliance's desire for secrecy, but there is one question I would like to ask, if I may. Carol nodded. Ask what you like, Mr. Catwall. I'll answer you if I can. What I really want to know is, what have you found here? What you found here? You and your friends, it's taken time, energy, money for you to do this. So what's in it for you? The near-to-retirement red-faced opened up into a friendly grin. That's easy to answer, so it is. Carol returned the smile. We care, Mr. Catwall. We care, and we'll be very glad to see this exploitation of innocent creatures brought to a halt. You know, of course, that this is like the drug trafficking. As quick as we shut down this operation, another one starts up somewhere else. Oh, aye. We live in the real world, but we'll be pleased to have put a stop to these crooks, and especially one named here. He goes by the name of Major Stanhurst, and to see him behind bars alone will make our work worthwhile. We just hope you, the police and the R.S.P.B, see the urgency to act the same as we do. Carol looked into the friendly face and it turned into a frown. Oh, no mistakes, miss. We will be taking this very seriously, and no doubt the others will too. I won't let this rest. The wife and I live near Cheddar, you know. We do all we can to encourage the wildlife. Also, you name a customs officer in here. He held up the file. Who is working with this lot? This will be taken very seriously. As for the worldwide ramifications, well, there's a good bit of international cooperation about that these days. Rest assured, this will be taken very, very seriously. Carol explained about the 2-week deadline before approaching the media. Mr. Catwall thought that was fair enough, except that he wished it was a bit longer. His final words to Carol were encouraging. You know, young lady, this job can make a man very cynical about the human race. But knowing that you people acted on a scrap of information and continued until you'd gathered all this information, well, to be honest, it helps to restore my confidence in mankind. He shook Carol's hand warmly. The fact that your motive was because you care, I mean, well done. As Carol walked back up Gloucester Road toward Avonmouth Station, she felt like she was walking on air. It was a combination of completing the job and the warm appreciation expressed by the customs man. He'd done something to restore her confidence in humankind too. At New Scotland Yard, Danny Greene was still in conversation with Detective Chief Inspector Royston Hutchins. To Danny, the detective seemed more like the type of man that you'd find running a rural post office than a fairly senior police officer. His tweed jacket and the cavalry twill trousers gave him a rustic look, and the large brown eyes that matched his thinning hair seemed too kind to actually arrest anyone. He had a habit of placing his spectacles on and off, for no apparent reason, placing them on his desk and then putting them back on just as carefully a few minutes later. He had a warm and sincere expression, and Danny could not imagine that this man had ever chased anyone at high speed. But he had, and his arrest record was a high one. And though he was usually kind even to those he apprehended, he still had an inner toughness and determination about him. And he would have been wasted running a village post office. "Well, Mr. Sir, this is breathtaking stuff, and there are names connected with all this that I will be happy to see behind bars. Again, that is. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?" "No, that's fine." The Chief Inspector replaced his glasses and pointed at the copy of all the information that Danny had handed him. "How long has all this taken you and your 3 friends to gather? Information in England, Ireland, around the world?" "A number of weeks, Inspector. Months, I suppose." "I'm sure it did. Very well done. Can I ask you, how did you get across the access to the records of so-called Major Stannis that led you to cracking the code, etc.?" Danny Greene blushed a little. "I think I would rather not answer that question, if you don't mind, Inspector." Hutchins gave a small chuckle. But then his face became serious again. "Truth is, Mr. Sir, I don't really care how you got it. My worry is that this man Stanhurst is, in my opinion, one of the most ruthless men in London, and I'm amazed you get such information without serious consequences to yourself. I hope you and your friends are not in any danger, sir." "Well, as far as my friends and I know, Stanhurst doesn't know anything about our investigation. If he does, we all 4 know we're in danger, and having calculated the risk, we are sure the seriousness of these crimes is worth the risk." "Very public-spirited of you all, and no doubt about it. I have to say that you informed us before. If you had informed us beforehand that you were going to take on this investigation, any police officer in this building would have told you, for your own safety for a start, just leave it to the police. Yet I have to say the results of your work are excellent. Also, the written record and report are very well done." The police officer removed his glasses again. "I fully understand your desire to remain anonymous, you and your 3 comrades, but I would be very grateful if I could have your names for our own records, you understand, not for the press." "Sorry, Inspector, we've all given our word to each other. We will not reveal our identity to anyone at all." Danny noted the hurt look on the inspector's face. "It's not that we don't trust you, Chief Inspector. For your records, you can say it was the Ace Alliance, and we don't mind if the press know that. We're resolute that we will not identify ourselves personally in any of this. Perhaps you can see it from my point of view. You ring up and ask to speak to me, and only me. You come in here with an amazing story with international implications. You seem to have been doing our job for us. Ha ha ha. And doing it well, sir. Then you want to just walk away and leave us to act on it. If you and me, would you want to know who the people were responsible for this? Well, you would, wouldn't you?" "Yes, I would. But I'm not at liberty to tell you." "Sorry, Inspector. Can I ask you a question?" Danny was using his old method of changing the subject. "Do you know Stanhurst personally?" "Yes, I do. Our paths have crossed." "Do you not think he's about the coldest person?" "Yes, sir, I do." "So you've met him, then?" "Just once. And my wife has met him, too." "Has she now?" The glasses were being replaced again. The inspector was thinking that in all probability this unknown man in front of him had revealed another member of the Ace Alliance. If his wife had met Stanhurst, she was probably a member too. His face spread into the one of the postmaster helping the old lady who'd lost her pension book. "I doubt if you've had access to our files on Stanhurst. So I'm wondering, why did you ring me?" "And I do want an answer to that question, please, sir." "That's easy. One of our contacts told us to meet with you because you would consider this matter serious and would not just brush it all to one side." "Oh, I doubt if any police officer would do that, sir, but I do have strong feelings about this kind of thing. Do you know, when I was a bobby in Devon, I got far more pleasure from arresting the local gamekeeper for killing a buzzard than I did from booking a local poacher for taking a few of his pheasants. It will be treated seriously, I promise you. I promise you. And Stanhurst, well, I'll say no more about him for now." A woman police officer brought them in fresh coffee and Danny thanked her. The inspector just gave her a smile, but the woman constable looked as if she basked in pleasure from the inspector's smile. As she left the room, the detective leaned back in his chair. "Tell me, sir, how can I put all this to the test, prove its authenticity?" Danny Greene looked surprised. Do you doubt it, Inspector? Oh, I never said that, sir. That look that he gave was now as if the postmaster was asking the old lady if she was sure her pension book was not in her coat pocket at home. I was thinking about the superintendent when I hit him with all this. He may have doubts. Well, you're an experienced man, and no doubt you'll convince him. I'm not a policeman, and I wouldn't begin to tell you how to do your job. Then he gave the older man a friendly smile. I'm glad you think we have our uses, sir. Why did you choose not to inform us earlier? Look, Inspector Hutchins, we had time, resources, money, and know-how. Would you rather someone came in here to report a murder or came in with the location of the weapon, the name of the murderer, and written proof that they were guilty? Point taken. How can I get in touch with you? You don't. It's all there. You don't need any contact with us. Danny held out the one sheet of paper he didn't hold him back. It was in a separate plastic file. Here are the names, locations and phone numbers of the other folk that we've informed at exactly the same time today. Police officer scanned the list. True military precision. From a military background, are you? Danny hesitated. Hutchins was fishing. Inspector, if it's all right, I need to go. I have to get home. Understand that, sir. Just one thought, though. Did you not trust us? Why did you have to go to all these other folk, too? Only 3, Inspector. Just a precaution. Some of the folk in that file of information are well placed in society. There could be pressure to cover things up. This is not the Soviet Union, you know. This information will be passed straight to the Metropolitan Police Wildlife Crime Unit. They work in this field, and if they tell us this is true, wildlife comes third after drugs. If what they tell me is true, wildlife crime comes third after drugs and arms trading as a money spinner. The inspector was chuckling again. Don't you worry, sir. This will be treated very seriously by them. Yes, but there is corruption. True. It's being rooted out, but there is some corruption. We've taken another precaution too, Inspector. And what is that, sir? In 2 weeks, we're taking all the same information to a well-known media person. I see. In 2 weeks, that's not wise, sir. Not in 2 weeks. 2 months, maybe. Please give us a few weeks to coordinate the course of action we need to take. After all, sir, this is international, as you yourself pointed out. It will take some planning. Danny thought about that. Maybe the inspector was making a reasonable request. Pressure on the authorities was good, but they did need enough time. I will discuss it with the rest of the Ace Alliance and see if we can make it 2 months' time, Inspector. Yes, please, sir. Ring me about that, will you? Okay. Did you ever play golf, Mr. Danny wasn't falling for that one. Try Mr. X. Now they both laughed. No, I played approach golf, but not the real thing. Even so, you appreciate that hole-in-one is pretty rare? Danny nodded his agreement, and the inspector continued, but a hole-in-two is slightly more common? Danny nodded again. That seemed reasonable. So if we had 2 months, we're more likely to get results than we are in 2 weeks. I will see how the others feel, Inspector, but I think the illustration's a bit unfair. We've put the balls right on the edge of the holes. You only have to nudge them in. But I'll ring you about making it longer when I've talked to the others. Yes, please, sir. The inspector folded his glasses, stood up and looked out of the window. We would really appreciate that, young man. You tell your friends in the Ace Alliance that they've done a good job. Danny Greene stood up. Well, Inspector Hutchins, I think it's about all, so I'll get on and look forward to seeing how you follow through. Danny drained the last of his copy. Strange choice of an MP on your list, the Chief Inspector held out his hand. A bit of an agitator. Danny shook the friendly handshake and said with a victorious smile, Exactly, Inspector, exactly. As Greene closed the door and walked down the corridor to find his way out of the building, the inspector called in Sergeant Bennett. Yes, sir? Right, Bennett, quick as a flash. Follow that young client who just left my office. I want to know who he is, where he lives, and who his friends are. Just routine. Keep it to yourself. Quickly, man, or he'll get away. Grey jacket, jeans, desert boots. So Danny Greene has left. Inland Revenue, the Royal Society for Protection of Birds, police at New Scotland Yard in London now have all the information. Danny's left, but he's being tailed by young police. Detective Sergeant. Where does he go from here now? Keep with me, my friends, keep with me. Thanks for continuing to listen. Love to you all from both Kate and myself. And bye for now. Bye-bye.